Oh, last but not least, nephew. I had to go. Where's the water go? Where's the water? I got traded in for solar panels. They say that's the future, this, that, and the third. In conjunction with DC City, we offer you.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. We're gathered here today in front of the White House to commemorate an anniversary in the East Turkestani people's struggle for national liberation and independence. Before we start, we're going to start with the playing of the East Turkestan national anthem. Thank you. Again, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Today, on this solemn and important day, April 5th, 2025, we stand before the White House not only to commemorate a tragedy, but to honor a legacy of resistance, sacrifice, and unshakable determination. 35 years ago, in the small township of Baren, in the heart of East Turkestan, our people rose up in defense of life, liberty, and dignity. They rose up against genocide. They rose up against colonial occupation. They rose up to say no to extermination and yes to existence. They rose up for their children, their homeland, and their God-given right to live free. And for that, they were massacred by the brutalist, godless Chinese occupation regime. On April 5th, 1990, hundreds of East Turkestanis, led by Zaydin Yusuf, gathered in Baren to protest the Chinese Communist Party's horrific atrocities, particularly its so-called family planning policies that resulted in the forced abortion of over 250 Uyghur women in a single town. These were not isolated crimes. They were part of a systemic campaign of ethnic cleansing, a genocidal policy that sought to erase our people from the face of the earth. When our people peacefully demanded the right to exist, the Chinese regime responded with armored vehicles, helicopter gunships, and over 20,000 troops. Within 12 days, more than 3,000 East Turkestanis were brutally killed. Over 7,600 were subsequently arrested, and thousands were tortured, imprisoned, and executed. And yet, despite this monstrous onslaught, the uprising at Baren lit a fire in the hearts of our nation that has never gone out. We are gathered here today not only to remember our martyrs, but to proclaim that their sacrifice was not in vain. The Baren Uprising was a lawful and righteous act of resistance against a foreign colonial power, one that had waged a silent war of extermination against our people for over 60 years. It was a declaration of the unyielding people that of the unyielding truth that East Turkestan is not a part of China. It never was, and it never will be. It was a message to the world that our people will never accept subjugation, never submit to foreign tyranny, and never surrender their right to self-determination. As we stand here 35 years later, the genocide that began in the shadows of Baren continues in broad daylight. Since 2014, the Chinese occupation regime has launched a full-scale campaign to eliminate Uyghurs, Kazakhs, Kyrgyz, and other Turkic peoples in occupied East Turkestan. More than 3 million of our people have been locked away in concentration camps and prisons, while millions are enslaved in forced labor factories. Over 1 million children have been forcibly torn from their families and placed in state-run orphanages and so-called boarding schools, where they are indoctrinated to reject their language, their faith, their identity. Hundreds of thousands of East Turkestani women have been forcibly sterilized. Millions of our unborn children have been forcibly aborted against their mother's will. Over 16,000 mosques, cemeteries, cultural sites have been systematically destroyed. Countless others have been turned into bars, police stations, and clubs full of Chinese communist propaganda. This is not history. This is happening right now. And what is perhaps most horrifying of all, and what we must say plainly without fear or hesitation, is that tens of thousands of East Turkestani youth are being murdered every year for their organs. Yes, organ harvesting, the industrial extraction and sale of human organs by the Chinese state. It's not a rumor, it's not a conspiracy. It has been confirmed by Chinese government documents, by witnesses, by special lanes at our airports that say for organ transplants only. Our people's bodies are being commodified. Our youth are being executed on demand. The Chinese state and its Communist Party is running a system of evil so monstrous it defies comprehension, and the world, the international community, so far has done little to stop it. That is why we are here today at the doorsteps of one of the most powerful governments on earth to make a demand, not a plea, not a request, but a demand rooted in law, in truth, and in moral duty. The United States of America, which has been founded on the principles of liberty, justice, and resistance to tyranny, must act. The time for empty words, for empty condemnations, for lip service has passed. The time for resolutions and symbolic gestures have long expired. The time for action is now. We call on the United States government and all governments across the world to recognize East Turkestan for what it truly is, an occupied country, illegally occupied by Communist China in 1949. For decades, China has spread lies, manipulated maps, and rewritten history to portray East Turkestan as a so-called internal issue. But that is nothing but a lie. East Turkestan was a sovereign nation. We had our own government. We had our own flag. We had our own passport. We had our own military. We had diplomatic relations with the most powerful governments of at that time. We declared independence not once, but 3 times. In 1864, again in 1933, and again in 1944. It was only through foreign military invasion, foreign military occupation, and mass repression that China brought our country under its illegal control. And just as the United States condemned the Soviet occupation of the Baltic states, the Chinese occupation of Tibet, it must also condemn China's illegal occupation of East Turkestan. Furthermore, the U.S. must take immediate concrete action to hold China accountable for its crimes. The U.S. and the international community must enforce the Genocide Convention, not just by declaring the genocide that is occurring, but by mobilizing international coalitions to impose economic, diplomatic, and legal consequences on the perpetrators. Sanctions are not enough. We need trade restrictions on all Chinese goods made with the slave labor of Uyghurs and other Turkic peoples in East Turkestan. We need criminal prosecutions of those complicit in genocide and organ trafficking. And we need to support efforts at the United Nations and the International Criminal Court and the International Criminal Court of Justice to bring justice to the victims of these unspeakable crimes. I speak now directly to those who understand the cost of freedom, to patriots, to veterans, to every American who believes in the sovereignty of nations and the danger of global tyranny. The Chinese Empire is not simply a threat to the people of East Turkestan. It is a threat to the world. It is the greatest enemy of the United States that the United States has ever faced. It seeks to dominate the global economy, to dominate the global institutions, to dominate the globe. It infiltrates American and global institutions. It exports its surveillance technology, and it works to crush every vestige of freedom, including here in Washington. East Turkestan is the front line in that fight. By standing with East Turkestan, America weakens China's war machine. By supporting the recovery of our independence and liberty, America can strike at the heart of China's imperial ambitions. East Turkestan is where China tests its nuclear weapons, which killed over 750,000 of our people from 1964 to 1996. It's where it carries out mock attacks against U.S. air bases and aircraft carriers. It's where it launches its surveillance programs, its space satellites. Freeing East Turkestan is not just a moral obligation. It is a strategic imperative, not only for America's security, but for global security and for global stability. To President Trump, who has long recognized the threat posed by China, who stood firm against Beijing when others bowed, we urge you to once again lead the international community. Just as Ronald Reagan stood before the Berlin Wall and declared, "Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall," we ask you to look towards the deserts, the mountains, and the prisons of East Turkestan and declare, "Mr. Xi, end your genocide, free East Turkestan." The Baren Uprising reminds us that the resistance to tyranny, to foreign colonial domination and occupation is not a choice, but it is a duty. Our martyrs did not die in vain. Their blood was not spilled for silence. They cried out with their final breath for justice, for freedom, for a future in which their children would live without fear. It is now up to us and to all the free nations of this world to answer that cry. We will never forget Baren. We will never forgive the atrocities committed there. We will never abandon the struggle for East Turkestan's independence. We will continue to speak. We will continue to fight. And one day, God willing, we will return to a free, independent, and sovereign East Turkestan, where our flag flies high and our people walk free. May justice be done. May our nation rise again. May East Turkestan be free and independent once again. And may God bless all those who stand for truth and justice. Thank you. Now, I would like to invite the Family and Women Director of the East Turkestan National Movement, Ms. Amanisa Mukhlis, to give a speech.
Hello, everyone. As today we gather to remember, and we gather to speak for the voiceless, for the women, mothers, daughters, and children of the East Turkestan, whose pain the world continues to ignore. 35 years ago, in April 1990, a massacre unfolded in Baren township in East Turkestan. It began after 250 Uyghur women were forcibly subjected to abortion by the Chinese occupation regime, part of their brutal genocide campaign of so-called population control. This woman was stripped not only of their dignity, but of their children, their future. But that horror was not an isolated crime. It was a symptom of something far deeper, a genocide that began when China invaded and occupied East Turkestan in 1949 and continues to this very moment. This genocide targets the heart of our nation, our women, and our children. Under Chinese occupation, East Turkestani women are subjected to forced abortions, sterilizations, forced marriages to Han Chinese men, and rape. Our sisters, mothers, and daughters are not protected. They are targeted. Their bodies have become battlefields in a war of extermination. Millions of Uyghurs, Kazakhs, Kyrgyz, and other Turkic peoples are remain imprisoned in concentration camps that the Chinese government falsely calls re-education camps, as well as prisons and forced labor camps. But the truth is horrific. Inside these camps, women are subjected to torture, rape, sterilization, forced abortion, and psychological destruction. This is genocide. But the pain does not stop at the gates of these camps. Over 1 million Uyghur children have been taken from their families and sent to state-run boarding schools, places where they're indoctrinated, brainwashed, and stripped of everything that makes them who they are. They're forced to forget their parents, their ancestors, their language, their prayers, their identity and souls. They're indoctrinated to be tools of the Chinese occupation regime, not children of East Turkestan. And as a mother, I speak not only as an advocate, but as someone who feels this pain deeply. It is unimaginable. The heartbreak of knowing that your child has been taken, not knowing where they are, wherever they're alive or not, or whatever they even remember your name. I cannot bear to think of what Uyghur mothers endure every day. The silence, the helplessness, the grief that never ends. Uyghur women have no voice inside East Turkestan. Their rights are not just ignored, they're violently erased. They cannot protest, they cannot defend their children, they cannot speak their language, pray in peace, or live with dignity. China is not just occupying a land, it is destroying a nation. It is tearing up our roots. It's waging war on our identity, our culture, and our very existence. And it's doing so while the world watches it in silence. So let us be clear. This is not a cultural assimilation. This is not a misunderstanding. This is genocide by every legal, moral, and human standard. And the world must stop pretending not to see it. China's crimes are not just crimes against the Uyghur people. They're crimes against humanity. And these crimes cannot be forgiven, and they will not be forgotten. To the international community, we were told never again. After the Holocaust, after Bosnia, after Rwanda. But it's happening again. And the world silence is not neutrality, it's complicity. Uyghur women and children are not statistics. They're not numbers. They're not someone else's problem. They're human beings. They're mothers, they're daughters, sons and fathers, and they need the world to stand up now. I want to say this to every mother, every father, every human being who still has conscience. You don't have to be Uyghur to stand against genocide. You only have to be a human. And those who pretend this is China's internal affairs, I wanted to remind you that East Turkestan was never part of China, and history proves it. The Great Wall of China was not built to include us. It was built to keep us out. And our language, our culture, our religion, and our identity are distinct. The truth is not complicated. East Turkestan has always been its own sovereign nation, and the Uyghur and other Turkic people are its rightful heirs. To every government, to every organization, every journalist, and every activist who stands for justice, we call on you today to take a stand, recognize and condemn the ongoing genocide, recognize that East Turkestan is under occupation, recognize that Uyghur women and children are being erased, and act before it's too late. Speak out, sanction the criminals, cut ties with companies profiting from Uyghur slave labor, support our people's rights to full national independence, and demand with an unfeared voice end the genocide, free East Turkestan. And to every Uyghur mother, every woman who has suffered in silence, I see you, we see you, and you are not alone. You're not forgotten, and your voice lives in us, and it will only grow louder. To the children, the ones who have been taken from their mothers, and the ones yet not be born, we will not we will not stop fighting for you until you're free. We will not stop fighting until your home is free. And we will not stop fighting until East Turkestan stand as free, as sovereign and independent nation once again. Thank you.
Thank you. We will now face the White House to do some chants and to call on the United States and the broader international community to act to stop decades, over 75 years of genocide, colonization, and occupation. Thank you.
I go with the guys at the LSC. Cut the shot. At 9:30. I know you. Yo! Automatic! Yo! Skateboard dude, hell yeah, you know, you ain't wearing briefs. Yeah, I did. Yeah, you remember my crazy movie called The Mess?
April 5th, 1990.
Hell yeah. Yeah, you see we're painting. You're painting?
April 5th, 1990. Baren stood up. Baren stood up. April 5th, 2025.
April 5, 2025.
April 5, 2025.
April 5, 2025.
We still rise for East Turkestan. April 5, 1990.
April 5, 1990.
Thousands massacred, we won't forget.
Thousands massacred, we won't forget.
April 5, 1990.
April 5, 1990.
Thousands massacred, we won't forget.
Thousands massacred, we won't forget.
April 5, 2025.
April 5, 2025.
Remember Baren, resist Chinese occupation. April 5, 2025. Remember Baren, resist Chinese occupation. China's genocide must end. Free East Turkestan now. China's genocide must end. Free East Turkestan now. China's colonization must end. Recognize East Turkestan now. Chinese colonization must end. Recognize East Turkestan now. 75 years of genocide. End it now. 75 years of colonization. End it now. 75 years of occupation. End it now. No more silence. No more fear. East Turkestan's freedom is near. No more silence. No more fear. East Turkestan's freedom is near. Stop the genocide. Recognize East Turkestan. End the colonization. Support East Turkestan. End the occupation. Independence for East Turkestan. China's empire must fall. China's empire must fall. Independence for East Turkestan. Independence for East Turkestan. Chinese occupation fuels genocide. Chinese occupation fuels genocide. Independence for East Turkestan ends the genocide. Independence for East Turkestan ends the genocide. China's committing genocide. Stop it now. China's committing genocide. Stop it now. China's committing colonization. Stop it now. China's waging colonization. Stop it now. Never again means action. Act now. Never again means action. Act now. Take China to the ICC. Take Xi Jinping to the Hague. Justice for East Turkestan. Justice now. Justice for East Turkestan. Justice now. President Trump, act today. America first means stopping China's crime. Stand for freedom, now's the time. Stand for freedom, now's the time. America, uphold your promise of never again. America, take a stand, free East Turkestan. America, uphold your promise of never again. America, take a stand, free East Turkestan. Freedom is on the line. Support East Turkestan. Freedom is on the line. Support East Turkestan. East Turkestan is not China. It never was, it never will be. East Turkestan is not a part of China. It never was, it never will be. Support East Turkestan's independence and Chinese imperialism. Support East Turkestan's independence and Chinese imperialism. Call it East Turkestan, not Xinjiang. Call it East Turkestan, not Xinjiang. China end the occupation now. China, get out of East Turkestan now. China, end the genocide now. Terrorist China. Terrorist China. Fascist China. Fascist China. Imperialist China. Imperialist China. China, get out of East Turkestan now. China, get out of East Turkestan now. China, end the occupation now. 75 years is enough. China, get out of East Turkestan now. 75 years is enough. China, end the colonization now. 75 years is enough. China, end the genocide now. Act now, America. Act against Chinese imperialism. Act now, America. Act against Chinese colonialism. Act now, America. Act against China's genocide. Act now, America. Support East Turkestan's independence. Act now, America. Recognize East Turkestan. Act now, America. Uphold your promise of never again. Act to end China's genocide. Assalamu alaikum. First, I'm gonna deliver a speech now in Uyghur to our fellow East Turkistanis all across the globe in the global diaspora. Assalamu alaikum. Dünyanın barlık yerlerdeki, muhaciretteki aziz Şarkı Türkistanlık karendaşlarım, aziz milletim, bugün 5 April 2025 yılı 1990 yıldaki 5 April Baren'da kozgulangan Şarkı Türkistan inkılabının 35 yıllıkini hatırlaş bilen biz bugün Amerika'nınki astarının aldıda Şarkı Türkistan halkının avazını çıkarış bilen bir yerde tuttuk ve Şarkı Türkistan halkınınki ergiz özgermegen arzusu, nişanı Şarkı Türkistan'ınki müstakillik nesli keltirişini hakkında halkaranı herkes kılışka çakırık kılatımız. Aziz karendaşlar, biz yakından yazı, uzundan yazı destek buldu. Turladı kıravatımız, umumi halkımız bulup o muhaciret halkımız cimcitleşip gitip pardı. Ve del Xitay tacavuzçılarınınki halıgını delmişim. Biz cimcitleşip geçsek aziz karendaşlar, biz üzümüz yıkılmışsak, biz üzümüzge igi çıkmışsak, başkalar kelip bizge igi çıkmaydı aziz karendaşlar. Bunu ne çıkkatım dep kettik. Bizninki birden bir lan kutuluş yolumuz var. Xuddi Baren'da hakikaten Şarkı Türkistan'ın hakiki mücahitleri başka yerle kitip uruş kılmay, başka yerle kitip kılmay, Şarkı Türkistan zeminide Xitay tacavuzçılık karşı kıraş ilan kılgan, uruş ilan kıygan ve Şarkı Türkistan'ın müstakillik nesli keltirmede cenedin, meledin, barlıktan vazgeçken şehitlerimiz, şehit mücahitlerimiz nesli ya turvatımız. Ve bu esas ulanınki pagan kürüşünün esaslan ve o kürüşününki Xitaylar tarafından vahşilikçe bastırılışını narazılık bildiriş bilen emez. Bilen kılmay, şulanın izide menişinin yolunu izlenişimiz gerek aziz karendaşlar. Biz dünyanın arka işçilerdeki teşkilatlarımız, aktivistlerimiz, faaliyetçilerimiz ve umumi halkımız başkalar kanda küçük çıkarlıgan bolsa özünün milletini de biz özümüzün milletimizni de başkalarını da emez özümüzün milletimizni de küçük çıkışımız gerek. Bir yerde nurgun kişiler, mesela başka milletlerini kollaydıgan nurgun kişiler ulanın namayişleri çıkıdır. Ularla karşı ulanınki ulağı istaşlık bildirdi. Bizden özümüzün karendaşlarımız, milletimizden boğan kişiler, halkımızdan boğan kişiler. Ama özünün davasıga, özününki küreşige iyi çıkmavatıdır. İyi çıkmavatıdır. Bu ırkı kırgınçılıkınki, bugünkü kadar bu ırkı kırgınçılıkının davamlışı. Ya biz özümüz aldı bilen Şarkı Türkistan halkı sebepçi. Çünkü biz karşılık vermegenlikimiz için, şu yetivağallıkımız için biz özümüzünki katliamlarını, özümüzün ırkı kırgınçılıkını, şu sıkıntımız arkalık, şu korkaklık arkalık kollavatımız. Nomuz kılaylıyız karendaşlar. Bizden aldığımızda en ahırkı bir fırsat var. Bu fırsatga biz tayyor turishimiz kerak aziz qarindoshlar. Xalqaro vaziyat kiravatsan inshaalloh bizga bir imkoniyatni, bir en ahirgi fursatni Allohim bizga yaratib berayotgandek turibdi. Ama biz tayyor bo'lmasak, biz şu imkoniyatni foydalanmasak, şu fırsatını kaçırıp koysak tamamen üzümüzden halkımızı kırgan bulunuz. Dinimizden, milli kimlikimizden, emmenasından vazgeçken bulunuz kardeşler. Kravatlan bizim müstakil devletimiz bulmay turup, bizninki kişilik hukukimiz, dini erkenlikimiz, abru izzetimiz, insandaki yaşaş kadriyetlerimiz mi yok. Bulmaydı. Bunu kapaletlik kılacağım birden bir nasıba. Bir nasıba. O olsa Şarkı Türkistan devletini kaytıdan titleş. Şarkı Türkistan Cumhuriyeti'nin müstakillikini asla keltirişiz kardeşler. Bunun başka yol yok. Şunun için daim davet kılındık. Biz, ammimiz, kulumuzdan kâginle. Çünkü Allah bizden kılanmıgınımızdan hesap sormaydı. Kılalıgınımızdan imkaniyetimiz batırıp en az degende narazılıkımızı, avazımızı çıkarmasak biz insani burçumuzni, musulmonlik burçumuzni, Şarkı Türkistanlık burçumuzga hıyanet qilgan bo'lamiz. Ado qilmagan bo'lamiz. Öz xalqimizga, öz dinimizga, öz millatimizga hıyanet qilgan bo'lamiz qarindoshlar. Va buning jazosini hem bu dünyada hem ahiret taatımızda qarindoshlar. Şunun için biz qo'limizdan keladigan barliq harakatlarni qilishimiz kerak. Biz o'zimizga kunda en az deganda 5 minut o'zimizga ayniga qarab, bugun men Sharq Turkiston uchun nima ish qila oladim? Vatanimning qutuldirish uchun qanday hissa qo'sha oladim? Qarindoshlarimning qutulushi uchun qanday hissa qo'sha oladim? Nima ish qildim deb o'zimizdan so'rashimiz kerak aziz qarindoshlar. Va nima ish qila olaymi deb qilaligimizni imkoniyatimiz bog'ich qilishimiz kerak aziz qarindoshlar. Bo'lmasa biz Xitoylardan farqimiz bo'lmaydi. Shu o'zimizning xalqimizni o'zimiz qatlayam qilgan bilan o'xshash vaziyatga tushib qolamiz. Shuning bilan oxir bilan Allohim bizga, hammamizga, dunyoning har qaysi joylaridagi Sharq Turkistonliklarga jasorat ato qilsin, kuch-quvvat ato qilsin. Vatan, haqiqiy vatan sevgisi ato qilsin. Haqiqiy iymon ato qilsin. Ve Şarkı Türkistan'ın müstakillik için kurashga atlanadigan için jasorat ato qilsin. Ve bizni bilib bilmay millatimizga, devletimizga, ulug' Sharq Turkiston mustaqillik da'voyimizga xoinlik qilib qilishdan, sotqinlik qilib qilishdan, dushmanlik qilib qilishdan saqlasin. Bizning sepimizni xoinlardan, münafıklardan, casuslardan saklasın ve hainlerini, münafıklarını ve barlık düşmanlarını yer bilen yaksan kıysın Allah'ım. Bizge öz panah edin. Şarkı Türkistan'ı azat kılıç için veya ki şu yolda üleş için azat kılıç için küreş kılıp üleş için bizge fırsatlarını, imkaniyetlerini, yaratıp verişini ve öz panah edin. Özünki kandak yardım olsun. Yardımcılarını bizge maddi, manevi cihetten yardım kıladigan Şarkı Türkistan zeminini azat kılış için veya ki şu yolda küreş kılıp üleş için fırsatlarını, imkaniyetlerini yaratıp verişten ato qilsin. Ve inşallah bizge hammamiz bo'lmasimi, yerimiz bo'lsimi, bir az kısmımız bo'lsimi, hür ve müstakil Şarkı Türkistan'da yaşashni nasip qilsin. Avlodlarimizga hür ve müstakil Şarkı Türkistan'ni da cho'ng bo'lashga, shu yerda shu davlatda yashashga nasip qilsin. Ve o'zimizning, hammamizningki vatanimizga qaytib, aşağıdaki urug' tuqqanlarimiz bilan, qarindoshlarimiz bilan, şu yurttaşlarımız bilan, şu tuproqimiz bilan qaytadan birik bo'lishga nasib qilsin. Aziz qarindoshlar, yana deydiganim, doim takrorlaydiganim, voz kechmanglar, umidsizlanmanglar. bizge en ahırkı bir fırsat aldığımızda, en ahırkı bir fırsat kilovatı da şununla hemmemiz teyat turuşumuz gerek izkırındaslar. Bir minutma vazgeçmeslikimiz gerek. İşlim kılamırsak mı? Sosyal medyada, meyli Facebook olsun, Twitter olsun, Xitay düşmanımızga kançılık zarbi biralisek, Şarkı Türkistan'ga müstakillik deyişten başka din çoğrak Xitay'ga zarbi biradigan, yani sosyal medyada başka bir gap yok. Bunu emmiyadının kılışımız gerek. Bütün dünyaya bizim birden bir talpimiz var ekanligini, u bolsa Şarkı Türkistan'ın müstakillikini asli keltirish ekanligini, bizden bir nişanımız var ekanligini, u bolsa Şarkı Türkistan'ın müstakillikini asli keltirish ekanligini ve bizden bir düşmanımız var ekanligini, u bolsa Xitay tajavuzchilar ekanligini xalqaraga bildirishimiz gerek aziz qarindoshlar. Başkalarınki suikastlarga aldanmanlar, nurgun suikastlar oylanıp nurgun suikastlar oylanıp kelip bugünkü müşkünlük geldi. Ama Allah'ın izni bilen bu suikastlarımı çuguladı ve asla çugulavatdı. Allah'ın izni bilen Xitay ve Xitay'nınki bir hatarlık şirikleri, Xitay'nınki halçıları mağlup kıladı inşallah. Ulanın oyunları, ulanın suikastları yer veren yeksan buladı inşallah. Ve müstakil Şarkı Türkistan Cumhuriyeti'nin ki asla keltişini asla tutanmaydı inşallah. Ve müstakil Şarkı Türkistan Cumhuriyeti asla kelgen çağda bu dünya, bu dünyada zaten kürdü bu münafıklar, hainler. Ama bu dünyada bu adalet yüzlerine de o münafıklar, hainler, casuslar inşallah. Rahmet. Ama Allah'ın ki bu oluk gününler hayırlık olsun. Şu Baren'deki şehitlerimizin ki ruhi biz bilen her daim de olsun. Ve şulanın yolu da, şulanın ki izi de, şuladek Şarkı Türkistan'ın müstakillik nesli keltirişin can meydanında küreş kılışka Allah bizge şu fırsatlarını sizden nisip kılgan. Amin. Esselamu Aleyküm.